Okay. And we're going to play a little video. And you can go off camera for a second if you want. We'll just jump back on in a moment.
Crossing county lines, just to make my name. So put it on the line, put it on the line, cause I never break back down. One shot is do or die. To the bottom of the bottom is on style, I think it's on. And I had to get it, yeah, I got the solution. I am such a problem, I ain't going to problem. That was the goal, and that was the goal. But if you started, we gon' finish it. Started, we gon' finish it. Outside, I'm a boss, I'm a king. I'm on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king. I cannot be stopped. I'm a boss, I'm a king. I'm right on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king. I cannot be stopped. I'm a boss, I'm a king. I'm right on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king. I cannot be stopped. I'm a boss, I'm a king. I'm right on the top. I am a king on the throne and I'm running the kingdom with all my ability, using my strength and agility. Money. You make me feel so good. The music gets so cool. Put your hands up, everybody knows that. Don't hold back, got you on go Jack. Go DJ, that's my DJ. Party on replay, party on replay. I am such a problem, crazy goon and gone up that pollution with a group of goblins, super choppers, and they hoot and holler when we slapping dollars, losing partners. But if you started, we gon' finish it. Welcome to the wild side, you know what the business is. Crossing county lines just to make my name in the city. Took everything, put it on the line, cause I never break or back down. One shot is do or die. You make me feel so good. The music is so cool. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm right on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I cannot be stopped. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm right on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I cannot be stopped. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm right on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I cannot be stopped. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm right on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm a boss, I'm a... I am a king on the throne and I'm running the kingdom with all my ability, using my strength and agility. Money. Put your hands up, everybody knows that. Don't hold back, got you on go Jack. Go DJ, that's my DJ. Party on replay, party on replay. fast, crossing county lines just to make my name in the city. Took everything, put it on the line, cause I never break or back down. One shot is do or die.
Welcome to the bottom of the bottom, me and sing the solemn. If I saw him and I had to get him, yeah, I probably got him. Corner boost to mix up the solution. I am such a problem, crazy goon and gone up that pollution with a group of goblins, super choppers, and they hoot and holler when we scooping dollars, losing partners. But if you started, we gon' finish it. Welcome to the wild side, you know what the business is.
Put your hands up, everybody knows that. Don't hold back, got you on go Jack. Go DJ, that's my DJ. Party on replay, party on replay.
I'm a boss, I'm a king, I reign on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I cannot be stopped. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I reign on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I cannot be stopped. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I reign on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I cannot be stopped. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I reign on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm a boss, I'm a I am a king on the throne and I'm running the kingdom with all my ability, using my strength and agility. Money.
Saria, we can't hear you.
Sorry about that. Oh my goodness. Okay, thank you, Kiana. Okay, you guys, I'm in technology world and I'm so sorry. So we have no do-overs in this world. So you guys, I'm Saria, the creator of Black Wealth Matters educational series. We created this series along with my amazing team, Gilbert Aguilera, Fabiana Downer, to name a few. And we did this after the murder of George Floyd. And the reason why was because a lot of us in the finance world believe that finance and money fixes everything. And once we got clear about why that murder occurred, we realized that everything is like the solution isn't as black and white as we want it to be. So we created the Black Wealth series as a way to really expose systemic racism and connect it to the areas that impact the Black experience in America. So this is our second year doing it. And for this series, we've been focusing on childbirth. And the reason why we wanted to do childbirth is because it impacts our wealth because, number one, if we're killed while having a baby, now we have one income to support that household potentially without the resources that we can add, and that child could be potentially growing up with a worse financial future, which can also be financially devastating, mentally devastating for the family as well. The other way is because it's mental health. Mental health, as we've learned during COVID, is so important, and mental health absolutely affects our wealth 1,000%. So before we start with our speaker, I'm going to go over a little bit about who we are and what we do. And I also want to make sure that you guys, this is such a great time. The world is opening up a little bit. The weather is getting warm out here in Los Angeles. We have the Super Bowl happening this weekend. So we have so many exciting things. And we conclude our series next month with Congresswoman Robin Kelly and Tatiana Ali. They'll be the speakers for next month. And so you guys make sure that when you're watching this, whether you're watching live or you're watching the recording, that you make sure to tune in next month too, because we're really excited to hear how they're going to conclude the series on Black wealth and birthing. So in terms of who we are and the impact of the financial sector on systemic racism, I'm really excited to share the story of our company. So I'm with a company called World Financial Group, and the sad fact is that finance is one of those areas that is extremely impactful, but not as known. And so when we were actually researching the financial sector, we couldn't even find the number of Black agents that are even in the industry. And there's a saying that President Lincoln says, where the best way to predict your future is to create it. So we definitely want to create more people of color and women in our industry. Absolutely. So today I'm going to be really quick, but I want to share some things that we believe. I'm going to give you some financial education tips and how we work. So just think about who you know that can benefit from this information, whether it's the education series or anything that we're offering. But we want this to grow. We want it to be a grassroots movement. And in the financial sector is one of those interesting careers because you don't have to keep going to school. You don't have to have a master's degree. When I was deciding what careers to pick, I'm from a single mom on the south side of Chicago, and my mom worked at a factory. So I was one of the first people in my family to go to college and graduate. I didn't even know what majors existed. So I ended up picking finance because I wanted a major that allowed me to make unlimited income, but where I didn't have to keep going to college. And this is what came up. So we're looking for people who are interested in that conversation too. And what we're also looking for are people with people skills. We're looking for people who are coachable. We're looking for people who have an entrepreneurial mindset. And it doesn't mean that you're an entrepreneur or you've ever been an entrepreneur. You know, the funny thing is that we go to college to learn how to be employees. We pay money to learn how to be employees. So we're here, we want to change that. But in terms of where you can start building equity somewhere, we have an exceptional business opportunity. We really do. We have a very sophisticated platform. We have a great need for the products and the services. Right now, if you go on any social media, you're going to see Bitcoin, cryptocurrency. You're going to see people talking about investments, right? Unfortunately, none of them are experts because that's just not how it's set up. There's not enough financial experts, which is why our company is growing aggressively. And then we have powerful compensation, and we're a place where it just feels good. And if you look at these stats, one of our speakers in the past, he says where America gets a cold, Black America gets pneumonia. Right. So these are some of the sad statistics that are out there, and you can read this on your screen. But the long and short of it is we're not making enough money. We're not saving enough. And accidents and debt are devastating our finances and our families. An accident can be COVID. It can be a recession. It's something where we just didn't predict it. Right. So this is just generally for America. If we start breaking those numbers down for Black America, it's even worse. And unfortunately, most companies are living today very insecure about their future, whether it's their jobs, whether it's the benefits from their jobs, whether it's how they're going to put their kids through college, if they can even think that far in advance. So we know this, and we also know that financial stress can hurt you. It can actually kill you. There's a common saying in the financial sector that if someone's retirement is reduced by half, they pass away within 2 years. That's That's a common reality in the investment world. But even just that survival, that getting by, that so many of us have come to know, that also can have an effect on you. So what makes us unique as a company, you guys, is not only are we recruiting and developing people from that salt of the earth stock, that middle income stock, but we're also looking to help and transform those families. So what's unique is that when I was in finance, prior to this company, I was in 3 different brokerages. My family never had the minimums to even be able to support, hire me. But here, those were the people that I helped first. So much so that you're going to get to hear from Regina in a moment. But when I first got to this company, I was so excited to be able to help regular, hardworking people. I went to Chicago and opened up an office in the South Loop, right? And a lot of what's missing is right now we're not really sure about what is success, what is wealth, right? Social media makes us think that wealth is fancy cars, fancy clothes, mansions, this and that. Meanwhile, we all know that if you spend above your means, you're not going to be able to survive. So what we're doing instead is we're creating financial independence. And that's where you're making money because you're working because you want to work, but your assets and your wealth is actually coming in separate of your body, right? It's where you're independently financially sound. It's not where you're working a job every day. So we're helping families not only build their lives so that they can reach that, but we're helping people look at that as a opportunity option as well. And what's awesome is we never hard sell. We want to make sure that people feel comfortable and we educate. So here are some basic concepts. The first one is the rule of 72. The rule of 72 is about how to make your money double. We all should make our money double. And how you think about it is you take 72, you divide it by the annual rate of return that your investment is getting, and that'll give you approximately how many years it takes for your money to double. So if you have a kid who's, and you invest $10,000 for them, and they get a 2% rate of return at 35, that 10 will be 20, and at 70, that 20 will be 39, right? If you're getting 6%, that same kid with that 10,000, by the time they're 48, they're going to be 163. They're going to have 163,000. But the problem is none of us are really investing $10,000 for a newborn, right? Very few of us even have $10,000 in our bank account. Historically, that's what the numbers are saying. So what we need to do is make more and save more, but we cannot procrastinate. So often, because of the way that the system is set up, especially for people of color, we have so much debt because we are trying to create these better lives for ourselves. So we want to save once we get the credit card paid, or once we get the house paid off, or once we get the student loan paid off. But there's a value to that. So in this example, this kid started saving at 30, this one at 40, saving the same amount for 10 years. They stopped at, they saved the same amount for, I don't know, what is that? Until age 55. And then age 65 for him. So he has an extra $78,000 from just using the time value of money, whereas the other one does not. So the best time to plan is always now. But my favorite thing about what we do in our company is we focus on taxes. One of the best ways to minimize your taxes is by being a business owner, period. So if you're in a situation where you're making great income as a W-2 employee, the way that you can help is by being a business owner. So we love leveraging our opportunity for that. And then what you do is you take your investments and you put it into tax advantage vehicles. So it's a win-win. And of course, when we're helping people plan, we look at all the things that impact their planning, whether it's their cash flow, their investments, their insurance, their emergency reserve, and their debt. And these are some of the companies that we work with. And in terms of the opportunity, you guys, there's the traditional financial sector with all the fancy companies that we think about. And then those are the companies that only focus on recruiting. What's great about our company is we've taken the best of both worlds and we really merged it. So we want We want to build a financial service company on every corner. We want to be the Starbucks of financial services. And we see more people being business owners. We really do. But we know that a reason why most business owners fail is because they're not trained to be business owners. They don't have mentors. They don't know what to look for. So we're not only allowing that mentorship here, but we also have a great professional environment. So we have high standards, excellent earning potential where all of our promotions are right online. So you don't have to worry about an environment being political towards you or hostile and you can't get from point A to B. That's not how ours works. Everything is written on the internet, so you can see it, and it's very fair for everyone. As a matter of fact, we have more women working for our company than any brokerage in the USA because of that. So these are just some of the ways that we earn money. We want people to advance here. We want you to advance as much as you want to. And this is some of the ways that we're compensated. We're able to help people even if they're not saving $1 million, right? We can help people who are saving $200. If you're part-time with us and you're helping 4 families save $200 a month, and you're a new licensed associate, you're going to make $3,900 or an extra $47,000 a year. That's not bad. And if you're a leader, we're looking for leaders, you're going to make $7,000 or $85,000 a year. You guys, if you're making this type of money part-time, that means you have more money for your sorority. That means you have more money for your family. That means you have more money for your church. That means you have more time to spend with your kids. It frees up. It buys you back your time. But that's not why I came here. I came here because I really wanted to transfer the 20 years of financial education that I got to people so that they can go out and change their communities, right? No different than what we're doing with the Black Wealth series. So if you're that way and you want to create and start building a business, but you don't have the $500,000 to buy a McDonald's or a Keller Williams or a business like that, then let's say you have 5 agents helping 4 families save $200. That's going to be an override of $15,000 a month, $186,000 a year. And if you help those same families yourself, that's $22,000 a month or $271,000 a year. So you guys, I know sometimes when we're dealing with money, we're just like, oh, it's so intimidating. I'll get back to it later. And you look up and your baby is like 12 years old and you graduated, whatever you've been trying to do, and time has just passed. Right now is such a perfect time to think about the financial sector. Our communities need it. Our families need it. It's a shame that more of us can't just help our own families. It's a travesty, in my opinion. And on top of that, we value working with your families too. So many businesses in America have been started from father and son families, whether it's JP Morgan Chase and a Chase Bank or Sam Walton and the Walmart family, right? We want to take that hard work equity and have you working with the people that you enjoy and love. So you guys just know that you can work with us in a capacity that works for you, whether it's part-time or full-time. And we hope that for the next one, you can come and join us in person. We know it's nice out, but please join us. We would love to see you. Come join us in person. And also share the word and all that good stuff with your friends. So now I would like to introduce our next speaker. So Regina is the founder of the Broken Brown Egg. She started this in 2009. She's been featured in so many publications, whether it's Ebony, Essence, and I want to say the Wall Street Journal, but look at her website and I'll put that in the chat room. And she really just wants to be an advocate for, families that are having problems giving birth. And not only that, but she's part of the largest infertility association, I believe it's called Resolve. So without further ado, Regina, are you there? Do you want me to do your slides or would you like to do your slides?
Oh, I can do them.
Okay, do you see where you can do it? Okay, I'll pull it up for you. All right, Regina. So what I'll do is I'll just let you take it from here. And if there's anything that I missed, I apologize. And if I have any questions, I pretty much think like everyone else. So if I have any questions, I'll ask, and it'll be something that everyone else is thinking about. I can promise you that.
Absolutely, absolutely, especially with this topic because it can be one that people don't often think about, especially people of color. So, first of all, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And I know my friend Eloise was also going to participate but was unable to. And so I'm thankful to Eloise for asking me to pinch hit because we have similar mindsets about why this is a big topic and how it intersects with social justice as well as financial justice, because that's something that people don't connect when they think about this. So thank you so much for including me. So as Saria said, my name is Regina Townsend. I am the founder of the Broken Brown Egg, which is one of the oldest Black woman-led organizations focused on infertility and the Black experience of it. So I wanted to talk a little bit about what reproductive health is and how it affects or how it is affected by some things that people may not realize. So, as I mentioned, I'm an infertility and mental health advocate since 2009. I'm also a professional librarian, and I have a personal history of many different reproductive health issues: polycystic ovarian syndrome, hypothyroid, menorrhagia, all that good stuff that I'm going to tell you a little bit more about. I've also been a former foster parent, and we conceived our son via in vitro fertilization. So, what is reproductive health? You may not really you may think you know what it is, but you might not be completely clear on it. So if you have an idea, you can drop it in the chat, and I will also go over a few topics in reproductive health, some that you may know, some that you may not have thought about. So here is the actual definition from the World Health Organization. Reproductive health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity in all matters relating to the reproductive system and its functions and processes. So I put this definition because when people think about reproductive health, especially in this country, we think specifically about birth or we think specifically about contraception, but we miss the fact that the real definition includes mental and social well-being, and that it doesn't just mean that there's no disease or infirmity, as it says, but it could also mean I can't afford to build my family. I can't afford to pursue treatments that could help me if I have a medical reason why getting pregnant isn't easy. So basically, reproductive health is health. Not a lot of people think about it that way. They think specifically about babies, but it is health. It's an issue of your body not working as it's designed to, or something systemic that is causing a disconnect between what you are able to do physically and what you're able to access medically. So here are some different topics in reproductive health. So again, it's broader than most people assume. So adoption and foster care is a part of reproductive health. Infertility, as well as miscarriage, different cancers, menstrual disorders, period poverty. So for those who aren't aware of what that is people who menstruate who can't even afford the hygiene products. And there are plenty of studies and articles about how many people, especially in communities of color, that are affected by period poverty. Here in the library where I work, I keep a comfort cabinet in our teen space where teens can access free pads and tampons because we found that their school was charging them for them. We also keep a similar thing for adults as well. But these are, again, things that people may not think about and how finance and wealth and class affect those things. Sexually transmitted infections and disorders, abortion, contraception, and fertility preservation, which is those you may have heard people talking about freezing their eggs, Um, and the reason why fertility preservation is included is because you may not want to get pregnant right now. You may not have the partner that you are hoping to have, or you may just be focused on your career. But that shouldn't mean that you don't have the option to build or grow your family in the future. Well, what I found from the Broken Brown Egg and those who've reached out is that our counterparts, our white counterparts, are at younger ages being given the option to freeze their eggs, to do things towards their fertility preservation, having family members donate towards that. Whereas people of color, specifically women of color, those who identify as women, or who have ovaries, are finding that they don't have the money. They don't even know that that's an option. And there is no one in their family. In many cases, they're the first one to go to college. They're the first one to get the good job. So who's going to pay for them to preserve their fertility that way? So that's another big conversation about it. And then some of the larger issues: endometriosis, fibroids, polycystic ovary syndrome, as I mentioned. And then the other big one, especially in our country, is the maternal mortality rate, preeclampsia, premature birth, all of these other things that are highly affected by where we live, what we have access to, our knowledge base, what we're told about ourselves, and what we learn about our bodies. So, some quick definitions, and I don't want to go through all of them because it's so many, but I do like to connect people, the terms, with people that they've seen. Because oftentimes, one of the conversations that I get is, I didn't know Black people dealt with this. I don't know any Hispanic women who've dealt with this. I don't know anybody in my family. And then when you see the connection, then you go, oh, yeah, I guess I do. So here are some examples of some of the different issues that affect us in reproductive health. One of the biggest people who've talked about it recently, with aside from Michelle Obama discussing IVF, is Gabrielle Union. Most people are aware of her and Dwayne Wade using a gestational carrier, which is a surrogate, to give birth to their daughter. And that was because Gabrielle was suffering from adenomyosis. And so that's a disorder that causes tissue to break through to the sides of the inside of the uterine wall. And her speaking up about it was a way for people to see that even with her having money, as a Black woman, it took her longer to access information about this this disorder that she had. She didn't even know what it was. And that's often the case for many women of color who are just not given clear definitions about what is happening with their own bodies. So endometriosis, Tia Mowry has talked about it. Fibroids affect so many Black women, and we'll talk more about that. But Monica, the singer Monica, has talked about it. Polycystic ovary syndrome, which I mentioned earlier, which is basically insulin resistance. And it causes so many different issues hormonally in the body. And Kiki Palmer recently discussed it and how it affects her skin and things like that. And once again, people didn't know that that existed or that Black women were affected by it. Infertility, which
I have
most
a
people,
question.
yes, sure.
So this what is it, PCOS?
Polycystic ovary syndrome.
I've been hearing a lot of that, but I've only been hearing it from Black women. Is it something that's more prevalent in Black women than anyone else?
It is that I found, but it is something that white women deal with as well. It's not as high as maybe fibroids, where we see a significant difference. But more Black women are learning about it and talking about it. So that may be why you're hearing about it more. But when I was searching for information, when I first was diagnosed years ago, could not find any Black person that even knew what it was. And when I realized how common it was, I started to look at the symptoms, look at what it broke down for me, showed what was happening in my own body. And I instantly thought of women in my own family that I was like, she probably had it too. And nobody
Undiagnosed.
said, yeah, completely undiagnosed.
Okay. Thank
Yeah,
you.
no problem. So when people think of infertility, they think it's specifically the inability to get pregnant. but it actually includes loss and miscarriage. It's the inability to achieve a pregnancy or to maintain a pregnancy after 1 year of unprotected sex. And what many are shocked to find out is that if you're over 35, that drops to 6 months, and so on and so on. And that those who are born with ovaries are born with all the eggs they're ever going to have. So when we find this out at 32, 33, many times we're shocked, especially Black women, because the stereotype for Black and Hispanic women is that we're hyperfertile. We don't have any trouble getting pregnant. And so when we find out after we've gone to be, break through the stereotypes that say we don't go to college, we don't achieve, and we've gone towards those goals, now we find out, oh, well, you should have done fertility preservation years ago. Oh, we should have tested you for this years ago. And now you're 35. What are you going to do? And so a lot of women of color are finding themselves panicked to find out, oh, I did everything they told me to do. I followed all of the rules, and now I'm behind. And so I listed a few different people who've experienced infertility, and I keep an ongoing list on my website. But Michelle Obama talks about infertility, Remy Ma, Aisha Tyler, Josephine Baker, and there's just so many. In vitro fertilization is one of the most popular or most well-known forms of fertility treatment. It's not the main one that people have to do, but I think it's the first one people think of when they think of fertility treatment, and that's one of the most expensive forms of fertility treatment, which is, again, a barrier for those who are struggling financially to find out that they may need fertility treatment, and they're instantly going to think, I can't afford that, and they're not even going to pursue anything else because the way that it's marketed, IVF is the main thing that's on the plate, and we instantly assume I can't afford that. Everything I see just shows rich white women or celebrities. And preeclampsia, which is pregnancy-induced high blood pressure, and postpartum hemorrhage. So those are some of the biggest ones. So when you look at those things and you look at the idea that some of the treatments or some of the access to care is affected by where you live. I too, as Saria mentioned, where she's from, I am also from Chicago, South Side, and there are no fertility centers on our side of town. There aren't any. You don't even know that we need them because that's what you see. And so when you haven't been given information about how your body works, when you're in geographically an area that shows you that your body doesn't matter, that's a justice issue. That's a social justice issue. And also not having the right or feeling as though you're being denied the right to make choices about your body, your family structure, when to have children, if to have children, and who to have them by. That's reproductive justice. And so that's mainly the vein that I come from with Broken Brown Egg is when I was experiencing infertility myself and I realized that Black women and men weren't represented in the conversation. And then I looked at the history of it. That's when it really dawned on me that this is a justice issue as well as a health issue. So here are some quick facts, staggering facts that are heartbreaking to look at. I know one of the biggest ones that people have been talking about is the maternal mortality rate. And so as you can see, that 42%, the number of deaths among Black women compared to all the other races. It's really heartbreaking when you think about it, when we're in such a supposedly developed country, that Black women are dying at such alarming rates, just giving birth. We're also 2 times as likely to experience infertility as others, but we're least likely to seek treatment. And what I've learned through having the Broken Brown Egg and talking to people and researching is primarily that's because of a multitude of things. Our stereotypes that say that we don't experience it, so we find out last minute that this is even an issue that affects us. And at that point, our options are limited. We also have so much shame and stigma about different issues, especially medical issues. And we have a valid distrust of the medical industry. So it causes us to be hesitant to seek the treatment and the help that we need and deserve. Um, and then Black women are 3 times as likely to experience fibroids. And that is another huge, huge issue because fibroids are not only affecting us physically, they can cause infertility, they cause weight gain, they're tremendously uncomfortable, they can cause bleeding, they can lead to um, hysterectomy. And Black women are also receiving hysterectomies at higher rates than others. So when you look at it that way, it's like this domino effect of like just weight on us. And like I listed down here at the bottom, Black women are more likely to be uninsured. We face greater financial barriers to care and less likely to have access to prenatal care. We experience higher rates of many preventable, and I underline that because when you think about it that way, it's heartbreaking, but preventable diseases and chronic health conditions such as diabetes, hypertension, and cardiovascular disease. And if you have questions, I know I'm kind of going a little fast, but I want to make sure that I get through these. So, but if you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. I have no problem with it being conversational. If there's things that you're like, I didn't know that. Can we talk about it? So like I mentioned, here are some of the factors that affect Black women. We have a history of a valid mistrust of the medical industry. There is institutionalized racism. There's a lack of health equity, a lack of medical literacy, meaning we can go to the doctor, and if we do go, we might get told, do this, this, and this, but we may not even understand it. And the inability for us to ask the proper questions because we've never had the opportunity means that we leave without the information that will help us be successful in whatever they've told us to do.
And I also want to add too, Regina, it's also just a blanket kind of minimizing of the pain. So I'll share 2 stories. One of them is one of my clients is a nurse at one of the major hospitals out here in LA, and she said they have presentations all the time about their treatment of Black women. They have to have conversations about how they treat Black women and how they have to listen and all that good stuff. And she's seen with her own eyes a situation where a woman had given childbirth, and the doctor gave her Tylenol for the same pain that he had subscribed another Caucasian woman to with morphine. Like he just completely discredited. She saw this. So even though they're having all these conversations with them, they're still doing it. And what'd you say, Regina?
It's heartbreaking. It really is.
Oh yes, oh my gosh, Regina. Every time I do these series, I'm like fighting back anger, tears, all of it.
Yeah.
And one of the realities with me is that I went to the doctor recently for some pain in my leg, and my mom, she's like, well, tell them it's at a level of 10. Otherwise, they won't believe you. Like my mom's trying to make sure that the doctor just listens to me. And your mom told you that too?
Same. Yep. Tell them it's a 10. Or my aunt was a nurse. And she saw me. I had been sitting at the Cook County Hospital waiting room for hours, waiting to be seen because I had been bleeding for months. And when I finally got to triage, I didn't know she was on staff that night. And she said, next time, tell them it's your asthma because then they'll act quicker. And it just kind of clicked to me that we have to overdo it to get what others get at basic care level. And that really made me mad. And I use my anger as fuel. That's part of, the things that fuel me doing this work is when I look at it that way, I shouldn't have to do that. I shouldn't have to do that. The reason it's called health care is because you should care for me. But yeah, that same thing about tell them it's a 10 because Black women have also experienced not being taken seriously for their pain, not being prescribed the proper medication, Um, Also, there were very recently studies that showed that many physicians and healthcare professionals were taught that Black people experience pain differently. And so a 10 for us is really like a 2 for somebody else. You know, it's that we can take on so much more. And it means that so many Black people were suffering and not getting the help they needed because their own physicians had implicit bias that said, oh, they can take it. And that part is infuriating to me. Infuriating to me. Um, so yeah, the our issues with the medical industry are valid and far reaching. There was actually a study that was just released, I think, this week about the history of what is now modern medicine and its connection to the Ku Klux Klan. So I would definitely say Google that study and see um, what those connections are. Um, and then environmental factors, geographic redlining. So again, I'm from Chicago. Chicago is one of the most segregated cities in the country. And I'll show you a little bit more about that and what kind of thing that can, how, what kind of impact that can have. So many don't know or have never heard of Betsy Lucy and Anarcha. They are what many of us who are trying to reframe how these things are taught. They are considered the mothers of modern gynecology, and that is because um, they were the patients, if we use that term loosely, of J. Marion Sims, and he is considered the father of gynecological medicine. He invented the speculum. He did some very primitive fertility treatments in his day. At one point, he became the president of the American Medical Association. But to come to these discoveries, he performed these surgeries to fix what was called a vesicovaginal fistula, a very painful issue that was happening to um, women after childbirth. And to do so, he was experimenting his procedure on enslaved Black women, often without anesthesia. Um, he believed, as many others did at the time, that Blacks were less intelligent and therefore less susceptible to pain, and that he didn't need to use it on them. Through working on these ladies, he was able to come up with what would become the vaginal speculum. And these women did not have ownership over their own bodies. That thought process is one that many Black people have carried through the years, that you could be leased, you could be sold to, or given to white physicians historically so that they could experiment on treatment options, so that they could figure it out. Um, there were plenty of different areas in the country where if there was a medical school present, Black people were told, you know, be careful going around that school because we come up missing, basically. And while people hear these things and they think, no, that couldn't have been that couldn't have been, it absolutely was. It's documented. And it also has roots also with the Ku Klux Klan. Immediately following the Emancipation Proclamation and in the Reconstruction era, to stop many slaves from trying to get, or freedmen from getting from the South and moving um, north, there were stories that they would be told that if you're out after dark, um, the night doctors would get you. And it was kind of a boogeyman kind of a thing, but it was rooted in reality. As anatomy became more important to those who were going into medicine, they needed specimens. And so they would not only um, kidnap Black people. If you went in for something simple, you may not come out. They may decide to do intentional malpractice to keep you there. These were things that were actually happening. There was also grave robbing. There was a lot. Um, so it's heartbreaking, but it's there. And so when we look at it now, and people are like, well, just go to the doctor. Well, if you have a great great grandmother who is saying, I don't go to no doctors, I don't do that. We don't do that. You've had it passed down, that trauma and fear. Speaking of which, Henrietta Lacks, um, many know of her, but some still don't. She died of cervical cancer in a segregated ward of Johns Hopkins Hospital in 1951. But when she died, her cells were continuing to reproduce. The cancerous cells were continuing to reproduce, and they were looked at as immortal cells. And her doctor, without her permission or her family's permission, began to use those to experiment and test and come up with amazing technological advances. But her family had no um, input into this being done. And so Henrietta Lacks is considered one of the major women of health and the technology that we have now. And we do what we can to celebrate her, even though her cells were misused. They were used without her consent. I would definitely recommend reading about her because without her and her immortal cells, we would not have IVF, we would not have polio vaccine, HPV vaccine, etc. Ophelia Settle Egypt was a sociologist and a reproductive health advocate. She was pivotal in collecting slave narratives from former enslaved people. And she also, as a sociologist and social worker, was researching young mothers in Washington, D.C. And from interviewing them, she found that many of them, they had so many children, but when she talked to them, she found that they hadn't wanted to have all of those children, but they were being denied access to contraceptive care. And in many cases, them having so many children would lead to different issues financially in terms of they could not receive aid if there was a man in the house. So in many cases, their spouses would choose to abandon the family so that instead they could still receive aid. And she looked at that as a reproductive justice issue. Them being denied access to contraceptive care and the ability to choose if and when and how to expand their families was a justice issue. And so she took that and began to do education around reproductive justice in DC and was eventually hired by Planned Parenthood and became the director of Planned Parenthood in Washington, DC. And now Tuskegee. A lot of people know of Tuskegee or have heard of it, especially now that we're in this pandemic and there's been so much hesitation to be vaccinated, especially from people in communities of color. But many don't know fully about it. So the Tuskegee study took place for 40 years. It was supposed to be started to get an understanding of how syphilis affects the body, and that it was only supposed to be a very short study. But instead of 6 months, it ended up lasting 40 years. And those who had syphilis, it wasn't that many people misunderstand and they think that this was a study where people were given syphilis and not treated for it. And that's not what happened. There was a cure, and these people were deliberately not told that there was a cure. Instead, they chose to continue studying them for 40 years. And in that time, these men and women not only had it themselves, but also passed it to their spouses, also their children got it congenitally. And it was 600 participants affected by this who were told that they were receiving, once again, looking at the finance part of it, they were told that they would be getting access to free medication and burial insurance and all of these things, but they also weren't told you could also get a penicillin shot and be done with this whole thing. That was left out of the conversation. So it led
Regina,
us to not trust. Yeah.
you know what I just got present to? in this conversation is that it lasted for 40 years, which means it
Yeah,
was done in 1987.
yeah,
Most of us on this call were born in 1987. So it was still going on in 1987. Now, the reason why I'm saying that is because one of um, the convenient lies that we're told in America is that everything was so long ago. But when you start looking at the numbers, it's not long ago. It's
it's
like
not.
it's within
It's
the last 100 years. So
Yeah, the last descendant, what I think
yeah,
is still alive. It was 1932 to 1972, the study
okay,
itself.
okay,
But even though the study itself was done by 1972, when we think about the fact that their children were also affected, it's going on and on and on. And so
yeah,
when you have people, this is part of why the conversation about the connections to the COVID vaccine, people had a lot of mixed feelings about communities of
absolutely,
color. And it's
absolutely,
because, well, the last time, people came into our community and said, here's this thing we're doing, we couldn't trust that. And that is hard for people who are not from a community of color to wrap their head around because medicine hasn't historically been dangerous for them.
yeah,
Whereas for us, we can't trust your intentions no matter
yeah.
how nice you try to, say it, we're like,
Mhm.
I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, some Southern people were the nicest, right? Sugary
Mm-hmm.
sweet. And what
Yeah.
I love about this here is that it's in color. That's another way that
Yep.
history is really gaslit from us because everything is in black and white. I was looking at one of our first presentations was about politics, and I was trying to do a little research too, and found out that just similar to how Tulsa, Oklahoma was bombed, uh, so was a neighborhood in Philadelphia in
Yep.
1985.
Yeah.
1985. So it's and this is the funny part. So I'm like, oh, what? And I started looking at the pictures. All the pictures were in black and white.
Yeah. So that you'll think,
1980. Yeah,
so that you'll think, oh, that's like 1880
so long
something.
ago. Yeah.
That's so far. That couldn't. And it's not until you start talking to it's that's why it's so important for us to talk to our elders as well, is because they're like, no, I remember when that happened, and then it clicks to you just how recent so many of these things are and how far reaching they are because those issues currently affect us. Like
Yeah,
currently
because
affect.
why would they have changed? Nothing has changed.
Yeah.
And the gauge that I use now is if there's a picture of it, it's recent because if it was very historical, cameras wouldn't have been invented.
Yep.
So that's the gauge. So even if the picture is in black and white, I understand that there's a color version of it somewhere. Color
Yeah.
photos came out very soon after black and white did. And
Yeah.
just like this. So I love it. So because in our minds, we think that if we made them in black and white and maybe he had on a different shirt, we could think we're looking at slaves. We could think
Yeah.
it because we don't
Yeah.
know.
Especially
Uh,
as you look at their houses and things like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
you would think that, but meanwhile, it's not. They're regular people today, and that's just how they were in the South. So
Yep.
it's
Especially
all
considering my family would visit Louisiana every year. I'm only 40, and when we would visit, there are still houses that look just like that.
yeah.
Just like that.
Wow.
Hmm.
Yeah. Okay.
Crazy,
Well,
isn't
thank
it?
you. Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
And we got about 15 more minutes, so you're
Okay.
good.
So, as I mentioned earlier, I was going to address Chicago. And I use Chicago not just because I'm from here, but to highlight for many people, to give them a visual of how geographically the wealth gap is illustrated and how it connects health wise. So, this is a map of Chicago. The red outlined part is Chicago, the others are Chicago suburbs. And this is Chicago by race. So if you take a look at it, all of the pink are predominantly Caucasian areas, all of the blue are predominantly African American areas. And then these are the fertility centers in Chicago. And you can see they're up there where all the pink was. And so I overlaid it so that you could see there's none of those red dots down here by the blue at all. And so when you're thinking about the fact that we are at higher rates, disproportionately affected by so many reproductive health issues, and that we have such a historical issue of not being given information about our bodies or our bodies being policed, and you look at it this way, it really drives home. Because when I talk to people in the fertility industry, and I ask them flat out, well, why are clinics in these different places? They go where the money is. This is a business. And when you look at it that way, it's like, so what are you saying about the people who can't afford it? They don't deserve the access to care? Yes, that's exactly what's being said. The other issue is that Chicago, especially on the South Side or predominantly Black and Hispanic areas, are food, pharmacy, and postal deserts. So these are pictures of actual stores that are in my neighborhood. The CVS pharmacy on the left is gone, the Jewel Osco in the middle, and even the Target on the right. All three of these were access to groceries, access to medication, access to menstrual hygiene products, contraceptive products, all gone. And one of the conversations that has come up is, well, you can get things mailed to you now. You can just have it sent. Even if the pharmacy isn't as close by, you can have another pharmacy mail it to you. Well, what I learned from my research was that one, depending on what kind of Medicare or what kind of health care, especially our older community members have, they may get charged more if they use a Walgreens versus a CVS. So now you're double charging someone based on their proximity. And then also, I found that the 4 worst performing mail locations in Chicago are all located in Black neighborhoods. So as you can see, investigators at the Ashburn and Henry McGee stations found 62,000 pieces of delayed mail. So when you look at that and you think, well, that's somebody's check, that's somebody's medicine, it really drives home, once again, how these things and systems have set up to kind of block us from success in so many different ways. And it's affecting our mental health, our physical health, our financial health, our ability to hope for the family structure that we want. All of that is all connected. But we got this. I believe in being positive and trying to find a way to be optimistic. I would have never started the Broken Brown Egg if I didn't think, oh, but we're not going to stay like this, though. So what can we do? Well, first, we normalize talking about reproductive health with our teenage relatives, our kids, with boys and men, because they often get left out of the conversation. We take the shame and the stigma off of it. We talk about preventative care. We talk about respecting your body as opposed to policing your body. We talk about how to talk to your doctor. We share family history so that when we go, we know how to say, no, run this test. When you look at someone like Serena Williams, who suffered from, I think it was postpartum hemorrhage, or after she gave birth to Olympia, she told them what they needed to do because she was aware. But everybody's not aware. So talking about your family history so that when you go, you can say, well, actually, my aunt had fibroids, my mom had fibroids. I'd like to know whether or not you can do an ultrasound to see if I have them as well. So normalizing the conversation so that we go in empowered. Take control of your own health. going to the doctor, treating your body like a precious piece of machinery that you've been in charge with, um, thinking about what you want long term, getting comfortable talking about fertility preservation, getting comfortable talking about what you want in the future for your body and for your life. And in terms of the going to the doctor, especially for people of color who are anxious and uncomfortable with it, I encourage people to take a friend. And even if you can't physically take a friend, put somebody on speakerphone so that when you're in the doctor's office and they're saying something that could be racially motivated or biased, you have someone who can say, "No, mm, I didn't like that. Ask them this," and they can hold you accountable and hold the doctor accountable. And then I also try to tell people to use the 3P method. I came up with this when I was dealing with my own fertility issues and trying to figure myself out. And that is a pen, a pad, and a plan for every doctor's appointment every time. You need a pen to take notes, a pad that you need to write questions before you go. Write down what you want to ask so that when you get there, you're clear on that and you can go down your list. And then a plan for how you want the appointment to go. You can stop the doctor. You can say, "I don't like that. What's another option?" You can choose a different one. You can ask them to repeat themselves, slow down. All of those things that many people of color don't think that they have the option to do. You have the right and option to do. And then we can advocate, support organizations that are focused on reproductive health. Inform people about it. Tell people what you learned today. Research it more on your own. Challenge what you might already have thought about it and think about how you can help support. And then we put our money where our hearts are. We want to support the organizations and individuals who are doing the work. Make space for them. Doesn't necessarily have to be writing them a check. It can be inviting them to speak so that the conversation gets out so that we can try to change some of these things. And then when it comes to African American fertility, reproductive justice, reproductive health, these are some of my favorite Black women-led organizations, with the exception of Resolve and March of Dimes. Each of these organizations are founded by and run by um, Black women who found these disparities inconceivable and decided to do something about it. Um, you can also visit my site, The Broken Brown Egg, and go to my resources page, and I keep a growing list of individuals, organizations, Instagram accounts, whatever I can find, not only here in the US, but if I find something in the UK or Africa or any other country, I put that on there as well because representation matters. When you can see it, you can be it. And that is all I have. And I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you all so much for listening. I know it was a very dense presentation, but there's just so many parts of it that we don't think interact and overlap. But it is my preferred soapbox is getting people to understand how these things affect us on such a deep, deep systemic level. So thanks again for having me, and I'll take any questions.
All right. I'm looking, and I mean, you were so thorough. I don't see any questions. If you guys have any questions, just put them in there. But I think you did an amazing, amazing, amazing job. Thank you so much.
Thank you. I like I said, I love talking about this because it blew my mind when I realized it. Looking at how much these things say to us about ourselves, how they say you don't deserve this access to care because you don't live where the money is. So why would we put a center there so that you could find out how your body, what do you need that for? And I just kind of raged against that.
Yeah, no, it's how we have to function. We have to be, we got to take our emotions and make them bigger. And again, you guys, if you want to donate, the link is in the chat. If you want to have the website, is on there. Follow her Instagram, promote it. We definitely, there's no reason we shouldn't have thousands and thousands of people on these sites because unfortunately, I know it's so traumatic. You know, nobody, what do they call it? Trauma porn now.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody wants to hear about our history. But meanwhile, the same people who don't want to hear about our history end up going into a sundown town and getting, you know, hurt, or end up doing something that they could have avoided if they knew better. So I'm trying to create the space to know better, but it's uncomfortable, and we got to deal with the uncomfort.
We have to. I get so many people who will say things like, you know, I don't want to watch any more of those type of movies. I don't want to. But I know for me, part of how I knew that these things were wrong was because when I was younger, I watched The Women of Brewster Place. I watched Claudine. I watched the Roots. I watched The Color Purple. I watched these things, and now I see where that line of class and wealth and reproductive health and justice were in all of those films. And it's so important. So we can't shy away from it. We can't shy away from it.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Let me check one real quick. Yes, everyone said thank you. Thank you. We appreciate you immensely, Regina. I will speak with you soon, and I'll circle back so we can do an Instagram live and do some more talking about this. But have an amazing week. Thank you, everyone.
Good night.
Thank you. All right, you guys, don't forget to promote us on social media and invite your friends, and let's get some more people in here so that we can save lives, because that's ultimately what we're doing.
Crossing county lines just to make my name in the city. Took everything, put it on the line, cause I never break or back down. One shot is do or die.
Welcome to the bottom of the bottom, me and Cena Solomon. I saw him and I had to get him, yeah, I finally got him. Going to post to mix up the solution. I am such a problem, crazy gooning, gone up that pollution with a group of goblins, super choppers, and they hoot and holler when we super dollars, losing partners. But if you started, we gon' finish it. Welcome to the wild side. You know what the business is.
I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm right on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I cannot be stopped. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm right on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I cannot be stopped. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm right on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I cannot be stopped. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm right on the top. I'm a boss, I'm a king, I'm a boss, I'm a I am a king on the throne and I'm running the kingdom with all my ability, using my strength and agility. Money.
You make me feel so good. The music is so cool.
Put your hands up, everybody know that. Don't hold back, got you on go jack. Go DJ, that's my DJ. Party on replay, party on replay.
Welcome to the